what's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check. This is NXT Halloween HAVOC 2024 preview time, and that is Jake fucking DeMARCO. What's going on, buddy?
Are you scared? Because
He's
you
here.
should be. You know why? I went ahead and I'm like, Solo Sikoa's on the card? What, did I miss something? What is wrong? Oh, that's from 2 years ago. Oh, it's the old card. Because all I saw was like Solo Sikoa added to, you know, when he had to relinquish the North American title. That's from when that was from.
Yeah.
But and that was when Wesley had the shot and all that. But I was like immediately so thrown off. I'm like, is the Bloodline doing something? Did I miss something? Like I started to like, I need to ask Spaz, what did I miss? Why is Solo?
Not too long ago, the Bloodline, except for Solo, showed up in NXT and fucked with somebody. I can't remember who it was, but that was where the whole, oh my god, it's so much better without Solo in it. I'm like, that's the point.
Exactly. I mean, people are more excited that Liv Morgan did the Hawk Tuah meme than what we're getting here, you know? All I want them to do is bring back Shotzi as the host.
Oh, they probably will. They're probably leaving that as a surprise on the night. Shotzi and probably Scarlett as well, because they worked really well off of each other. We don't need Quincy Jones coming, or Odyssey Jones coming back. That's questionable. But yeah, no, like they're probably gonna bring Shotzi back. I would imagine Scarlett or whatever. Definitely lick a tit or whatever.
Definitely lick a tit. And I mean,
it would be a cool place. It would be a cool place for her to come back to, because she has been off injured for so long. She has been away. It's kind of like the very first time. If you hear her talk about the very first time they offered to let her host it, because she does horror movie content in her free time anyway.
Her and Shotzi, no, Shotzi, yeah, Shotzi and Shotzi, yes. No, Scarlett and Shotzi have that Chamber of Horrors podcast, which is great. I listened to a few episodes, and I was like, all right, this is damn good, and it's not just because they're beautiful as ever, but...
I still do have to check that out, but, you know.
You really do. I'm telling you, you will enjoy it, and you know who I am just thoroughly enjoying more and more lately?
Who's that?
Funny enough, is Karrion Kross. I watched his Chris Van Bibbe interview, and that was
CVV?
really well done. Yes, indeed, the CVV. And, you know, the Chris Van Bibbe, he went ahead and really presented Karrion in a very not sympathetic but approachable light, where you feel like, wow, I understand and resonate with what he went through while not being in the same realm of things. You know, he really he brought home the pain that he went through being released, and how he, you know, was so dominant on NXT, got sent up to Raw in some BDSM gear, got let go, and took that dark time and turned it into a positive. And I mean, he got to tell his wife he loved her walking out to WrestleMania 40 on the stage together. He's like, that would have never have happened. I never do that. I'm always in character, but I looked at her and I just said, I love you. And it was like the moment, because here we are together, and you appreciate those things like I do. And that's what I'm excited about lately with NXT, because you have...
I wonder if he's another one that could benefit from, like, not coming back, but like doing another set in NXT. Yeah, I don't think the whole group would work necessarily, but I think if he just came down, like if Corbin was still in NXT,
that would have been...
the Corbin that we got in NXT could do something with Cross, and it could still be like, okay, he's doing his group shit on the main roster. They're going to be doing what I said a couple of pods ago with him and the Wyatt Six. So I'm excited about that. That's almost
I saw
something
Raw. I was so excited because I was like, Spaz fucking nailed it.
Giggity.
I mean, you did. I didn't.
It is kind of funny because, like, we're talking about the Halloween thing. That whole thing, those two groups coming together, feels like something that belongs on a Halloween HAVOC, not necessarily on a Monday Night Raw. But I mean,
absolutely, you're so right, and that's really the thing here, is that you and I love the spooky, the macabre, the Halloween. I mean, I've got a tattoo of a pumpkin on my arm, in honor of my grandmother, next to the Wyatt symbol here. You know, I've got the fireflies for a reason, because this shit resonates with me. I love horror. I love the genre. I love what it does.
The kind of pay-per-view this is I wouldn't entirely mind, like, a cameo from some of the dumber characters. Like, if we've got Boogeyman or Mordecai or Kevin Thorne kicking around, like.
I'm down for that.
Not for a match, not for a return or whatever, but just like Shotzi's doing something as a host that actually makes sense, I'm just saying, and gets interrupted by the boogeyman and they like high five or something harmless and not turning it into like a showgirls thing. Here's the hell in the cell. we don't need this.
And, they have a great card this year. I mean, essentially the matches 4 and 5 are going to be great.
Yep.
But you have what I would call a triple main event card here.
Yeah.
I really feel like I honest to God, I think I'm more excited about the rematch of D'Angelo and Femi than most people are. Between the tables, ladders, and scares, I just feel like they're really going to just destroy each other here. I find it difficult to even believe that Obafemi lost, and to see him maybe lose again, we'll talk about it more. But
why he lost was awesome.
Exactly. And it,
like the fact that he was fucking
sense.
he was fucking with Tony D. Tony D was getting ragdolled, started fucking with the family. And, Popeye ate his spinach and we're off to the races.
Exactly.
But I do have to throw the brakes on as we go. Because, as we said, there's less matches on this than our TNA preview, which, if you haven't seen that, go back one pod. I dropped it a day early, but whatever. Lick a tit or whatever.
Hey, I've already heard some great feedback. People are really enjoying us covering TNA, so that's fun to hear. If you told me a year ago that Undertaker would be having Trump on and you and I would be covering TNA, I'd be like, oh, you're crazy. But
we're not going to get into the Trump thing today, are we? No. We need another podcast for that. Oh my God, how dare a guy with a podcast have a guest? That's literally the story. Anyways, we're not going to do that. We're going to touch on something just as toxic.
I got in-laws thinking that everything's rigged already. So we got to see how this shit goes. It's going to be exciting.
Watch out for the burst water pipes and the coolers and the camera cases.
I made the joke with you a little while ago, but really it does feel like Triple H really truly conditioned his loyal NXT fans to love the 5-match card, 3-hour in-out thing. And because he set it up with takeovers, and that was the format, and it just continually worked. You had pay-per-views having 9, 10 matches sometimes, WrestleMania having 37 matches in one day.
My problem with that on the main roster, like, he's brought a lot of really good old NXT ideas to the main roster that have made it awesome. The reason that doesn't work is NXT TakeOver was being built off a 1-hour, once-a-week show with a very limited roster. The fact that they're trying to do that to represent... I know the brands are fake, but to represent the Raw and the SmackDown brand and try to keep it equal and trying to balance 2 rosters of that size, 2 sets of stories that size, 2 sets of titles that size... we get into the conversation that you and I had shortly after Bad Blood, where you're trying to justify what was left off versus what was put on.
Exactly.
And you're giving yourself a selection headache with that because there's so much good stuff. As much as I think it fits NXT, and it fits NXT to a T even today, I don't think that one single element that he brought up to the main roster is working for me. I know it's working for a lot of people. I know a lot of people around the world that are staying up really late to watch the shows. It's probably fantastic for them. Just me, I'm selfish. I'm in North America. I am accustomed to big, long pay-per-views. Give me WrestleMania that goes till 2 a.m. I really don't care. I'm not rushing to the parking lot to get a cab home.
No.
So I don't have to worry about that.
See, but when it's WrestleMania, when it's the one-offs, I don't mind it as much, obviously. But I have grown very accustomed to this conditioning of the 5-match, get in, get out. You're going to have... And you know what it is, too? Like you said, you're justifying what's on the card versus what should or could be on. So whatever is there, it's like kind of the old school Manias where like you had to earn your spot before they threw everybody into a battle royal.
This is where we touch on, and I think I've doubled down on this opinion since the last time we mentioned it on the pod, because you had 2 really cool title matches, the Raw after Bad Blood, and you had that awesome ladder match on the SmackDown the day before.
Yeah, the tag team.
And I think by comparison, the 3 center matches of Bad Blood suffered because I would have rather seen those matches on those two shows be slotted into those places. And this is me. I'm a Judgment Day guy. The two of those three matches were Judgment Day matches. And how did I come out of that? I came out of that thinking Damian Priest and Finn Balor was just a match.
Yeah.
I could have had the ladder match on this stage. So I don't think it's working on the main roster. It's absolutely working for NXT on the other side of that, though. I think it's the one thing that doesn't quite translate. A lot of other things have. I mean, NXT is a very, very female-forward brand, which is awesome, something that hasn't quite taken hold on the main roster as much as some people would like. But I do have to throw the brakes on, like I said a second ago, because there are less matches to talk about, because there's a couple of other side quests we got to go on first. A couple of things that have been in the news recently. So
actually, before you get to that, I'm cutting you off. I'm putting the brakes on your brakes
do it.
really quick, because I had sent you something yesterday, and I kind of wanted to bring it up to your audience. And that back in 2012, when Triple H launched NXT, you know, that was the new name for their developmental. And, you know, we saw how it have developed as time went on, and it became an
like an indie
brand.
filter.
Yes, exactly. And it said there long seemed to be a disconnect between NXT and the main roster, because you saw superstars called up to Raw or SmackDown without any concrete plan, without anything really in the works. They would change their name. Yes, and that's what it all came down to. McMahon did not like that Triple H was getting something over that wasn't a Vince idea, so he wanted to kill it. He apparently took great pleasure in what he did to Karrion Kross. There's all these little things about Vince coming out, and you know, you hear NXT, you know, Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, Tiffany Stratton, all these people now are succeeding since McMahon has been usurped from his, you know, seat. So to hear Triple H, you know, with his main roster essentially being cared for by him now, since Michaels is taking care of NXT, they're so in sync. They are simpatico, and they were
working on. But you got to remember as well, though, and I'm not defending Vince. I'm just trying to take it from the logical point of view. There's enough people that are willing to burn Vince at the stake at this point. They don't need my help.
Yeah, no, certainly not.
But I mean, if you think about how far back the you go back to the Click, you go back to the original DX, you go back to the common friends that they worked with, the common friends that they've lost over the years. The two of them ran two very different versions of DX at various points. One of them was like the gangland, we're taking over everything. One was we're going to annoy everybody with how goofy we are and say that Vince loves cock. They brought those two ideas back together with NXT there.
Yeah, you got that super duper NXT, you know, humor that was being spawned by DX. You know, it's like, hey, Spaz, penis.
But I mean, like, they've been working together. They've been working as a unit for what? Like, when did DX come around? Like, late 90s?
Yeah, it was 97.
97, 98. Yeah. Bad Blood and the dumpster thing with the hardcore legends and all that kind of thing. So it's not like we threw Triple H and Shawn Michaels together now and said, hey, let's see if these guys can work together.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But to have it confirmed finally, I mean, we always knew that Vince basically was hoping to secretly destroy NXT, but now you hear even more coming out.
You get it confirmed.
We finally have it double confirmed.
But here's the thing, though, and I hate to throw a wet blanket on this, right? Because it is a valid point, and it's kind of gross, like, internal sabotage is a thing, right? But even if Vince didn't hate it, and I mean, Triple H held some, you know, negative thoughts towards how the main roster was going as well. If he was going in such another direction, he wanted to bring back War Games. Vince didn't want to because it wasn't his idea, whatever. So they were so opposite of each other that even if they liked what each other was doing, the two visions wouldn't have worked together anyway. So the fact that Vince hated it, okay, it's one more thing. Look what a dickhead Vince is. But their visions were so different that it wouldn't have worked even if Vince liked what Triple H was doing, I think.
No, you're absolutely right.
You got to remember as well, Triple H had an idea. He had a concept. Somebody said there was an idea to bring together. Anyways, I can't. I don't
well, this
know
is
the whole
Jonathan
speech, right?
Coachman saying this too,
Yeah.
and there's other, because he's talking on his Behind the Turnbuckle podcast.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's
Coach
got
has
other
said
people.
some funny things recently. I think
Some flagrant words. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that they're not true. It's all very. Everything's coming out right now. They just did the Netflix thing right now. It would be a really cool time if somebody had some stories to write a book or whatever. Not saying they're not true. I'm just saying it's a little opportunistic from some people. Speculating.
But it also is smart too, because you're cashing in, So some people just see the natural wave of things, and it's we didn't plan on it.
But then you're a Ronda Rousey or a Bella, and we don't want that. We got enough of those.
We do. I
still say from the last pod, # good for Gulak.
Yes, and you know what? You should have feared me. No, I genuinely believe it, though, that
don't go pulling on those strings.
That's what he should,
That's what she said.
That's what he needs to go with now. Don't pull on my string. That's a line. But what did Vince hate more than anything? Something that wasn't his. And we've known that for a long time. That's why when you saw people like Ryder get over, and it was like, woo, 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 get your ass back to fucking catering. And... he didn't want to give anybody credit.
Oh no, for that, for the vindictive nature of that, absolutely. But it would be like, I'm going to bring up two companies that I didn't watch in their heyday, but it would be like some rando insane guy with a pizza cutter from ECW showing up at ROH.
Yeah.
Like it's not that either of them are bad necessarily, it's that the visions are different. So even if you wanted to be respectful, yes, he could have not been a dick. But even if they were perfectly respectful to each other, you were still taking people out of the snow and putting them in the hot tub.
Yeah, no doubt.
Shitty metaphors for the win. But got a couple of bullet points I want to throw at you.
I know. Last point here is just that Vince wanted to actually destroy NXT with the 2.0 rebrand. Yep. And hearing that, it's not shocking, but again,
it's the essence of getting it confirmed.
Exactly, yeah. And just being like, oh, so the real final girl all along was Triple H. He was trying to survive in this horror movie we call NXT.
And the thing about it is too, because this is a montage that kind of goes through our community now, and you got people that cover NXT, and you got people that cover NXT, and I'm not going to say What Culture by name, I'm not going to say Michael Sidgwick or Andy Murray by name, but I am going to say people that cover NXT in incredibly bad faith and say, oh, I wish it was still 2.0, I miss making fun of it. Like, you're a shithead then. Like, you actively want something to not succeed.
Yeah.
And, of course, the accusation is going to be that that's what I have for AEW. No, if AEW wasn't shit, if Tony Khan wasn't such a sniveling little pampered shit, I would be all for them succeeding. But he's a pampered little shit that's pulled way too much shit, and we're going to talk about some of it. Yes. And the show's generally not good. I watched last night. I know you didn't even watch last night, and
I did not get to see.
This is the difference between our two pods. I actually sat down and watched AEW last night, and it was one of those. When you take yourself out of it, you put your own opinions on the shelf, and you try to get in with the people that are enjoying it.
Yes,
it's the difference between this is the thing that I don't like, and I don't like it, and watching it and thinking, the people that like it aren't even gonna like this.
Yeah,
I'm not making fun of it anymore.
That's a crazy thing to say when you really peel that back and look at the layers to what you just really threw out. I mean, my God.
There was a couple of funny things on the show that I found funny because I knew that the people that the show was actually for were gonna hate it. And that's so backwards. And everybody looks like a doofus last night. Everybody, there's your spoiler. Everybody looks like a doofus last night.
Yeah.
We talked a while ago, we've got some hope, we've got some speculation, we've got some curiosity about the Moxley thing. Holy shit, does he look like a goof now?
He does. I mean, people are calling him the new, wrestling Jesus. Funny enough to bring that up in the sense of he's going to be the savior.
Bully Ray said it on Twitter. I was watching a clip right before we came on here. It's like, if you're going to do an invasion angle, you should be making Jon Moxley, of all people, the guy that pulled you up by the bootstraps, the guy that held your hand through COVID. He should be the guy dripping blood, sweat, and tears in favor of AEW, and instead you want to convince the crowd that he's going against them. And the only people that stepped up to them last night were a parking lot full of jobbers.
And I'm sorry. What? I did see the beginning, like 30 seconds. But
and
John Silver had fucking nunchucks. Yes.
I'm like, no.
What?
No.
I thought that was a joke. I thought that was edited in on Twitter, and then I was like, oh, no, that's real. I mean, if they're going to say that he's wrestling Jesus, fine, fair enough. Nail him up on a cross, and if he comes back in 3 days, I'll tell you
If he was wrestling Jesus, not the wrestling Jesus from our community, but if he was the Jesus of AEW, the absolute jobbers of jobbers would not be that comfortable standing up to him, waiting for him to show up in the parking lot.
Yeah, and
they ran from Marina Shafir. I don't have any dislike for Marina Shafir. Let me make that perfectly clear. But goddamn. Anyways, and it's the same kind of people that support this that are going to hop on my first point, and they are going to, we actually like TNA. That's why we did a whole pod on it. They're pretending that they like TNA, or they're worried about TNA. They're doing all this performative like worry trolling that poor little TNA is going to have all their plants pulled out by the roots from the big bad evil WWE because the steel is coming.
Yes.
Have you heard this? The steel translates into a couple of people that we already know had contracts coming up in January, have contracts coming up in January, and might go work somewhere else. That's the steel. But Forbidden Door, New Japan, Ospreay, Okada, Trash Skanks, they wanted Stephanie Vaquer from CMLL, and she told them to fuck off. That's fine. That's fine. It's the steel. And, it's fun. We talked about it last night, you're probably going to have NXT hold one of your TNA belts by the end of this weekend. I'm talking about Wendy Chu, obviously.
Yes.
Shout out to Ringsider Anthony, who I was talking to about that. Ringsider Anthony, you guys have heard me talk about the Wrestling for Life guys. I haven't really mentioned Ringsider Anthony. He's their TNA guy. Go check out his shit. Really good dude. But yeah, it's the steel.
Yeah.
It's the steel. Kyle Fletcher, Will Ospreay, Okada, Trash Skanks. Ishii showed up last night. For reasons, because he wants to fight. He wants to fight the new ROH World Champion Chris Jericho.
Yeah, which is random that he just suddenly won on a Dynamite. What?
I loved what they did, but I'm like, that's not for your audience.
No, not at all.
I love the piss take of how that match went.
I said,
and clearly Chris Jericho
I can only imagine.
Chris Jericho and the Learning Tree are definitely worried about this invasion, AEW under fire from Moxley and his crew. So there's the steel.
Yeah.
And do you know what else they did? And apparently now, this is awesome. They can't say it's disrespectful to ECW because WWE now owns ECW's intellectual property.
Yeah.
So they're trying to spin it now that NXT going to the ECW arena is disrespectful to TNA because they do so many shows there.
And it's like,
what?
People can't rent the same building now?
Isn't that the kind of mentality that WWE got shit on for a while
for
ago?
A long time, because they wouldn't let the people get it. And then you end up seeing empty arena last night for Dynamite.
Holy Christ.
That breaks my heart too. I don't hate AEW. I want to like it, but as I said to you before, my 10-second quick thing is they have not had any consistency in 5 years. You never had Roman was the top guy.
You had Tony Khan coming out there in
straight.
interviews point blank saying long-term storytelling isn't a priority.
Exactly.
After they told us that the Kenny Omega and the Emo Cowboy was the best story wrestling ever told. While the bloodline is going on.
Exactly. And Tony
the
was attacked.
Emo Cowboy, I'm warming up to Kenny Omega. We've had that conversation already.
I know, funny enough.
The Emo Cowboy's story is he came to AEW because all of his friends were in AEW. He was tag team partners with his friend for a while, and then they broke up.
And he became a drunk.
And then he went and drank with some jobbers and slapped a batch of baby batter up his wife, came back, fought his friend, and got handed a world Punk. Yep. That's the big, long, expansive,
and then
layered,
nuanced
Emo Cowboy story.
Punk had to take him down a few pegs and take that belt from him.
Jesus
I mean, we
should thank Hangman for starting that boulder down the hill, but
yeah, he was the one that got that rolling. I mean, we would not have ever seen him return to WWE. Could you imagine? Everything we got this year with Punk would not have happened if Hangman didn't open his stupid fucking mouth.
Well, the other ones weren't helping their case either.
No, they weren't. But that's really, even Punk has said, that's what kicked everything into motion, because they had rumblings in the back. But then you're calling me a cancer, a pariah, and you're making it seem like I'm causing, Colt Cabana to not be booked. Are you retarded? So.
And I'm gonna say too, like, and you know me, I'm not a big censor guy. I'm not a big word police guy.
No.
Freedom of speech most of the time and all that. Can we find another word other than cancer?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about wrestling. I'm talking about, like, the world in general, the social media world, the wrestling world, the entertainment world, the political world. Can we find another word other than cancer? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people suffering with actual cancer that really appreciate that shit.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Oh my God! Look at that. That's such cancer. He's such good. What about my, sickle cell anemia? Shut up, you. It's like
at least if it was something funny, like, oh my God, he's such fucking diarrhea. Like, it would be lame, but at least it would be funny. And somebody who's got the Hershey squirts is probably going to go get some meds and be fine in a couple of days. Don't make fun of cancer.
Yeah, and on top of it, I mean,
and I'll be fair, because they did it in WWE as well when Drew in storyline talking about CM Punk, just as bad. Let me be clear. I want to be fair with that. Okay, so next,
I'm personally excited knowing that NXT is going to be going into the Lion's Den on a Wednesday night, going right with the 2300. They're going to go straight into Wednesday Night Dynamite, and they're looking for blood. I'm more looking forward to them going to Wednesday, because everyone was like, oh, well, AEW didn't really lose the head-to-head because it's not their night. So people didn't, they came up with every excuse. So now I want to see them get beat on their night.
You've brought me perfectly into my next point. And we just had it with the Tuesday Night War a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, we did.
We had it with the Wednesday Night War last year. We're going to have it with the Wednesday Night War this year.
I mean,
the cheating.
This week it was 7:20 to 6:37.
Yep.
I mean,
and that's on different nights. That's with no mainstream select
anything.
I mean, they had the race car guy there, but who gave a shit?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, it's cool. He drives the NXT car. That's fine. Let him come out. Let him come out there and have a wave. I don't care. It didn't hurt anybody, but I'm sure it didn't draw any ratings either. But here's the thing. Last year at this time, when they had to go head to head on the Tuesday, I mean, Cody, Paul Heyman, Undertaker, John Cena. Sure, why not? Like, they did some fun shit. Let's keep in mind, on the same night, 2 weeks prior, Edge had debuted in AEW. They postponed his debut match a week to go head-to-head with NXT.
Yeah, and look at how that turned out. Edge is now not walking or talking strong.
Okay, well, I'm not going for that. I don't want to make fun of the guy that got hurt. But I'm just saying, let's talk about strategy.
Yeah.
Like, you saved your... Like, if you had Edge return... I mean, obviously, if all the COVID shit hadn't happened and whatnot, Edge returns at the Rumble. He's on Monday Night Raw the next night.
Mm-hmm.
He's not there via satellite to say, oh, I'm going to do it next week because we're going up against, Polish Cosmic Bowling.
Yeah, so you can get the go fuck yourself moment. Come on.
But here's my point. It's cheating because they brought in John Cena. It's cheating because they brought in Cody Rhodes. It's cheating because they brought in Paul Heyman. It's cheating because they brought in The Undertaker. Okay? Because they're not on that brand. Because they're not from NXT. They're from Raw. They're from SmackDown. They're from wherever, right? Mm-hmm. Now, Jake, I want you, and this is going to be hard because it's going to be off the top of your head.
Uh-oh.
I want you to give me a concise list of everybody from Collision and Rampage that's not allowed to show up on Dynamite.
Orange Cassidy, Hook, Drew McIntyre. Oh, sorry, Lance Archer.
Dollar store Drew McIntyre looking ass.
That was
but
a
like
sight to
the
see.
cheating.
He's got the fucking pot belly now. What happened, Lance? Come on.
I mean, he saw the company that he was in, and he's like, I'm not going to try anymore.
Like, I don't need to exercise.
I can't talk about anybody having a pot belly because I've got the whole
me neither,
kitchen,
baby. But
we're also not making money on TV.
Money, exactly. If you and I were being paid his money to stay fit, we'd have abs for fucking days. You know, that's your job.
Liposuction on tap. Anyways,
I'll tap that.
My point being, CM Punk got them an insane number in Chicago. It's cheating. And then, what was it? The one that they went head-to-head with the following night. Smaller venue, because they didn't sell out the venue in what was it, St. Louis.
Yep, and they still had more attending than Dynamite.
They still had more attending than Dynamite. They still had more views than Dynamite. Views. Can you tell I'm a content creator? Yep. They still had more ratings than Dynamite. They went head-to-head with them only for an hour, not the whole show.
Yeah.
Only for an hour, not the whole show. The whole cheating thing. Well, okay, they had Sexy Red, and I'm pretty sure nobody cares. Unless you're like 12 and having a wank. I mean, everybody's taste is their own. And they had Randy Orton on there, who, like we said at the time, Randy Orton's great. Really cool match for Javon Evans, other than the one botch. As far as NXT family-ish stuff, CM Punk is NXT family. Randy Orton was visiting for a night. But again, I say, tell me who from Rampage and Collision isn't allowed to show up on Dynamite, considering they have to tape them back-to-back because they can't sell out 3 buildings in a week. I can't. I can't with this. It's cheating. And now the building is cheating. Well, people are going to tune in because they have nostalgia for the building. It's like, okay, first of all, I was never an ECW fan. I was super late to that party. I saw all the ECW people that ended up in WWE. I don't have any nostalgia for that building necessarily. For me, It's a building that I've seen a lot of TNA in. But guess what? They've got a thing going with TNA right now. So there's probably going to be a lot of TNA involvement with that partnership that you say is so toxic and one-sided, even though it's not. The TNA show has NXT people on it. The NXT show does not have any TNA people on it, to my knowledge. I mean, they kidnapped Tatum Paxley and put her in a box. So that's fun.
And no one cared, backstage, I'm saying. No one was, like, alarmed or worried. They're just
Guess what? We put a Paxley in the box.
Yeah. Hey,
I wouldn't get in. I will say the Wendy Chu's reaction to people mocking her looks with some of the stuff that she's put out on social media recently. She can put me in her box. Anyways, what? Sorry? Hi. Yeah. I'm back.
Well, you mentioned before, you're like, look at how they're handling booking, storytelling, all these things. And like I said before, joking in some aspects, but serious in others, we would not have seen Punk come back. And you look at how they handled Punk being injured, not off our TV, leading in one of the top stories, building to their first match.
You know what's true, and you know what none of them are going to admit. It wasn't the fact that they beat them in the ratings that night. It was that CM Punk in Chicago led the charge to beat them with WWE's third brand, with WWE's developmental brand. This would be, and I mean, I'm giving SmackDown the edge right now because they get better numbers than Raw. This would be like Rampage outdoing SmackDown.
Yeah, just... And Rampage is canceled. We only got a few more weeks of that to go.
We talk about, like, NXT is not developmental, it's a third brand. But it's still the third brand.
Yes.
So let's call it what it actually is. They don't even compare to Raw and SmackDown anymore because they know that's a losing battle.
Yeah, like Trick said, we're in every home now. We're going worldwide. We're only, building up to the better and better. And that's the thing, too, wrestling.
I do love the fact that it's going to streaming. I do love the fact that, the ratings conversation is going to go away because the excuse is always, oh, well, this was on local TV and this is on national TV and this is on cable TV. So if you look at it this way and that way, then it kind of really works in our favor, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to take the ratings conversation off the table. The one conversation we're going to have left is attendance. Who gives a shit enough to buy a ticket for the show you're putting on?
Mm-hmm. And the fact that WWE is charging multiple times what AEW tickets are, and I know that for a fact because I just looked at the prices recently.
$1,600 for WrestleMania nosebleed seats?
Yeah. Now, Dynamite's coming back in Connecticut the upcoming November time. It's like November, whatever the teens are, for that.
Where was the show last night, the Dynamite show?
I don't know. I'll find out really quick for you. But
okay.
yeah, I think the 13th to the 20th, they're in Connecticut. You can get a 4-pack for $80. I mean, before fees and all that, but still, like
the reason I mentioned it is because the one thing I saw this morning all over X was multiple people taking pictures of the parking lot. The point of that being they paid more for parking than they paid for their ticket.
Yeah, they were in Salt Lake City. And
they still aren't selling anything.
At the Maverick Center in Utah, Salt Lake City. So
all right,
and
more like Salty Lake City.
That's a big building. I'm
Giggity.
Too.
Cheap plug. 2 things. First of all, next week we will be previewing the show that's going down in the 2300 Arena. And cheap plug. If you're listening to this right now, tune into Jake's channel on Sunday after Halloween Havoc. We will be going live over there. We will be covering NXT Halloween Havoc. We will be having. We will touch on. What's
Bound
it called?
for
Bound for Glory as well.
Bound for Havoc.
Probably not as full a conversation as we'll have about NXT because it will have just ended. If you are following us on social media, please feel free to use the cheesy hashtag I've been using for a month now. It is hashtag Bound for Havoc. Find him at Countdown Ended. Find me at Spaz Phoenix. And you know what? I got a couple more bullet points, but I'm going to save them for another show because I think they're going to be evergreen topics to talk about. The last thing I will say is I've come to the conclusion that you and I were wrong a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, that doesn't happen.
Wrong in a good way. Wrong in a way that you're going to like to be wrong.
Hey,
because we had the conversation with the 2 nights that they went on the road. Was the big arena better? Was the small venue better? What's it going to look like in the studio, right? Yeah, the big venue. I think I like the big venue more. Or sorry, I like the arena more. You like the smaller venue more. And then we all had sort of curiosity about what the actual performance center was going to look like. So studio, venue, arena. Like that was the comparison.
Yeah.
I've flipped on that now. The win for NXT is not the PC. The win for NXT is not the small venue. The win for NXT is not the arena. The win is that NXT can do all 3.
Oh.
The win is that NXT can fit its show and what kind of show it puts on to be evergreen and work in whatever. The one in the arena felt big. The one in the smaller venue felt intimate. The one in once they got back to the PC, it felt like a homecoming. They know how to make their show feel like the crowd that it's in, and I think that's a bigger victory than the conversation we had a couple weeks ago about which one fit better. The fact that they fit all 3, I think, is the huge victory.
And no doubt about it. I mean, you're looking. SmackDown has had no less than 11,000 fans in attendance for.
Oh yeah.
You know, where they were for Dynamite last night for the Maverick Center it's a 12,600 setup seat capacity.
Yep.
And they had barely over 1,000. NXT is already sold out for the 2300 show.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
which is small. Let's be real.
It's very small, no doubt about it. But it was instant.
Yep.
And then you're seeing things like, you know, Winnipeg Pro Wrestling getting better sales for tickets than Dynamite.
I mean, I don't have them in front of me, but I'm sure the Bound for Glory numbers are bigger than that.
I'm sure it has to be. I'm trying to look actively right now. I know I will find it eventually. But yeah, like I said,
Jake playing guy in the chair here.
Yes, going back and forth. But with AEW coming up, Thanos. I was like, let me see, you know, price-wise, what's going on. And I was like, oh, wow, never mind. And it was like, not because it was so cheap, and what they have announced is nothing. So it's like, why go ahead and, you know, I know card is subject to change, but this is like, you know, a real disaster.
I will say, and I'm going to keep saying it, the way... it's not so bad in Toronto, like to the stuff that I went to the Money in the Bank Heatwave SmackDown thing, and my ticket package was pretty damn good as far as I'm concerned. But I've seen in the States, and I've seen at some of the more international shows what they're gouging for prices, so that they can do, if they don't have a high attendance, they can do that high gate. Some of the money WWE's charging is fucking ridiculous, and they gotta fuck off with that a little bit.
Yeah, some of it is just like they're really pricing fans out, and that's partly what I was trying to get at before, because it's like, holy hell, are they not just, you know, oh, we're breaking records, the highest gate every time they go to a place.
They got to stop using the gate as a metric.
Yeah, because they're just raising the prices.
If they're using the gate See, here's the thing. Here's the way I look at it. If they're using the gate, it means they don't have an attendance that's impressive. And if they have a lesser than attendance and the gate is so huge, what you're basically doing is you're publishing that you just gouged your fans. Now, there's a slight win in that, in the sense that, what am I trying to say here? In the sense that fans are willing to pay those stupid prices rather than spending like lunch money to go to an AEW show. There is a win in there, but it's small compared to the potential look of you're gouging your fans, which is kind of shit.
Yeah.
Anyways, so from that down note, let's hop into the actual card, because I am keeping an eye on the clock for you. Before we get into the matches, we're going to get Zaria's debut. I don't know if she's having a match. I don't know if she's going to come squash somebody. I don't know if somebody's going to come out and have like a segment and she's just going to come out and beat them up. I'm excited for whatever she does.
As am I. I know some people backstage in NXT were upset because I guess they didn't know that there is a 20-second, I guess, cutoff that happens when they're switching to local news. So even though they cut off right at 10, they were cut off like 20 seconds early in some markets, so people didn't get to see that debut in full.
But the thing about it is, like,
that's unfortunate.
I think you mentioned this to me offline as well. Like, it's 10 seconds of her standing on stage.
Yeah,
and it's immediately going to be on Twitter.
Exactly.
Nothing. So it wasn't like anything happened.
But it was still a great moment.
It was still pretty cool.
It's building nicely.
I still think she looks kind of like Beth Phoenix if Beth Phoenix was in the Road Warriors. If you follow Rhea Ripley on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, she apparently had a big hand in getting her through the door, and she's been just ridiculously happy. Like, she's been fangirling for somebody I guess is her friend finally walking through the door, and I think that's awesome. When you consider how badass Rhea Ripley is, and you see her and yes, some of it's probably performative, some of it's probably like, hey, check out this new person we have. But I still think that's pretty cool, and Rhea Ripley's pretty cool on the whole. People need to stop being shitty to her. And stop being shitty to Samantha Irving as well. Don't be weird.
And you know what was really cool, too? I wanted to mention it earlier. We're talking about TNA, but the Hardy Boys and Joe Hendry were at the Detroit Pistons game.
Nice.
Obviously, doing marketing for Bound for Glory. But to see them, in the arena and doing the Joe Hendry theme, and all the arena going nuts, he's transcending NXT and TNA. So
it is kind of a weird thing, because you got the Detroit Boys that just debuted on SmackDown, which we're going to talk about at another time.
Yes.
Right before they have their biggest pay-per-view of the year in Detroit.
Exactly.
Part of me wonders if they show up for the night, even if it's just for people to say like how happy they are for them that they've gone to the big bad evil Fed, as people are saying now.
Here's one of the things that we did not bring up last night, and I wanted to make a little bit of an addendum, and I forgot to mention it earlier, but JBL. We really didn't go into anything with that, and we saw him put out the tweet not long ago saying, just getting started, next couple of weeks could be fun for me. We know they're doing the taping as well after for Sunday, so that's interesting. So.
And it's a big venue that they're in, so the next week's show
sold out
as
well.
I'm just saying, it's kind of like what we talked about with old school takeovers, where as the pre-show they would kind of film the next week's episode of regular weekly NXT, and the weekly show got to feel big for a week. I kind of like it's kind of a pattern with TNA, like they do the pay-per-view and then they come back the next night to do some tapings. But I mean, you got the same crowd probably from the previous night still wound up from the pay-per-view. I think it's not a bad... If you're going to do a taped show, I mean, it would be awesome for them if they could start doing weekly stuff, but I don't know how that works, so I'm not going to try and tell them what to do. The JBL thing, I thought about it. I didn't really bring it up because I have no idea what to predict.
That's the same thought that I had.
Another addendum as well, and I was talking to Ringsider Anthony on Twitter a little bit, and one of his followers came back with, remember what I said that Kazarian and Santana would be my two picks to win the gauntlet, call your shot gauntlet, but they probably wouldn't be in it because they were doing other things on the show. Apparently, Kazarian is in a battle royal tonight to see if he can be in the number one spot in the gauntlet. So apparently he is in the gauntlet.
Oh,
don't know about
very
Santana,
nice.
but apparently, so Kazarian could, in theory, win the gauntlet, fuck somebody over in the main event, and then walk out with be the referee and walk out with the title.
That would be pretty bad.
So I didn't know that. I can't think of the person's name off the top of my head, but if you are listening to this and you follow Ringside or Anthony and you remember talking to me at some point, thank you for the missing information. Anyways, so we've got that. We've got all of our addendums from last night. We've got the Zarya debut out of the way. The one match on this card that's kind of meh, I could kind of take it or leave it, is Andre Chase versus Ridge Holland in an ambulance match. Andre Chase is going to win. We're going to have the good guy feel good thing. Here's what I have to say about this. Because we say a lot about Chase U. We have a lot of fun about Chase U, right? Or have a lot of fun with Chase U.
Yes.
I'm going to make a comparison here, right? I used to watch Grey's Anatomy. For my sins, I used to watch Grey's Anatomy. Loved every other character on the show except for Meredith Grey. She's the main character. Couldn't stand her. Loved all the characters.
You and me both. I've watched every episode up until like the most recent season because COVID time. My wife watched all of it again. I cut out
during COVID because all the political shit they threw in there. I'm like, you can fuck off.
It got really messy. Funny, you and I both,
anyways,
waxing poetic about Grey's Anatomy. But
my point being, Grey's Anatomy, I like everybody but Grey, right? I also used to watch The Walking Dead. Couldn't stand Rick Grimes.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
Loved all the other characters around him. I just thought his character was so inconsistent. I thought his character was a real pussy at some points. His character was a real asshole at some points. There was no consistency. All the characters around him were great. Introduced me to John Bernthal. John Bernthal went out to become the best version of the Punisher. All kinds of cool stuff came out of that show. Couldn't stand the main character. Here's the thing. I love all the characters in Chase U. I couldn't give a shit about Andre Chase.
Okay, I see what you built there. You built me.
Everybody else that has had anything to do with Chase U, like JC Jane was in there for a little bit. A couple of wrestlers that have been since let go, unfortunately, were in there. Thea Hale's great. Duke Hudson's great. Ridge Holland, both in and out. Riley Osborne, who's actually done some really cool stuff in TNA. Away from this gimmick a little bit, is in there. I like all the characters in Chase U except Chase.
Yeah.
I need Grey's Anatomy without Grey. I need Chase U without Chase. Which is probably really ridiculous because it revolves around him. But, I mean, he's going to win. He's going to get the feel-good win. It's going to feel good on the night. I'm not really going to care afterwards. And that's rare for me on an NXT event. But it's kind of one of those, this is a match that's here. All right.
Yeah, I feel you, because the ambulance match has always been kind of a, not silly, but you know what I mean, like, you're just putting him in the back, like you have to incapacitate him. But
the ambulance match was, they needed to do a casket match without The Undertaker, so eventually they came up with the ambulance match.
Exactly.
That's my thing, yeah.
That's a great way to put it, and it works, and here's the thing, I am a fan of Andre Chase. I do like him. I'm not quite, but I see what you're getting at. To me, I don't want to just agree with you, but really this was the match that I was looking forward to the least on this card.
Every time they've written him out, because there's been a couple different times where he's been either, remember when he was like poor and he was in debt and whatever, and he went away for a while, and then Duke took over, and then he went away again now that he was injured, and sort of Thea and everybody kind of rallied together. It's more like, I have to phrase this properly so I don't sound ridiculous. He's important as a character so that you can take that character out so that I can watch all the other characters try to fill his shoes.
Yeah.
So he needs to be there so he can leave so that I can watch other characters that I'm more into, see who's going to take his spot. But you don't have his spot without him. So he's like backwards important. If I don't know if that made any sense, but
no, I get I get what you're going for.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
But
to me.
I can't. And he's good in the ring too. It's not even like he's bad or boring in the ring. He's in full clothes, like full school clothes, while all the rest of his entire school comes out in proper wrestling gear. So maybe there's a little bit of that. Maybe I'm doing that surface level thing. It's not for me. The match is going to be a lot of fun. Chase U is going to get involved because it's a no DQ match. you're going to see a square off between him and Duke Hudson at some point that's going to be really awesome and get a better reaction. You're going to see a reaction between Duke Hudson and Ridge Holland like we got with Jacob Fatu and Braun Breaker this past week on Raw.
Okay.
Which is apparently getting a lot of internal praise and is going to be something they are seriously considering sooner than later, which I'm really looking forward to. I want to see Duke Hudson versus Ridge Holland. That's the match I want to see. That's the two big bulls I want to see going to battle for the heart of Chase U, and it's not Chase.
Yeah, no, it's not.
But I'm saying Chase is going to win. They're the kind of gimmick where you need the feel good victory at the end. And I think Ridge is only important to the crowd right now because he's picking on Chase U. So that's the other part of it that takes it out for me, because I don't know what anybody does after this match.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like, where do we go from here? It's not the worst. I am interested.
It's not a great opener, but I hope they open with this, because that way my interest can only go up.
Okay.
But there's something to be said for having a stronger match in the opener, so I don't know if that even makes any sense. Next one, moving on to something that's probably got my curiosity piqued the most, is the Women's North American Championship. Kalani Jordan is fucking awesome. We've talked to her.
We've been so high on her, she's practically cocaine. I mean, she has been, when she first came in, and then when she won the title, I liked it, but I wasn't fully on board with her yet.
Yep.
And then she just continued.
I like that her. I think I've said this before too, so everybody listening, you'll have to forgive me for being repetitive. I like that her and the title are projects together.
Yes.
Like, they're building her with the belt, they're building the belt with her at the same time. She's got the most deck stacked against her of anybody on this card. She doesn't know who she's facing because all it is one member of Fatal Influence. And the spin that they did on the wheel this past week on NXT was Spinner's Choice. So She doesn't know who she's facing, and she doesn't know what kind of match she's in. They're stacking the deck against her completely, which pretty much solidifies to me that she's going to win. She's going to be the conquering, smiling hero in the whole thing. A lot of people are saying Jasmine Nix because she's the newer person in the faction. She should go for the mid-card title. I really want Fallon Henley to have a good night at some point soon. And Fallon Henley, Kalani would be... nothing against JC Jane, nothing against Jasmine Nix either. But Fallon Henley shines to me, and I hope she shines in this.
Shine bright like a diamond.
Yes.
I feel you, buddy. I feel you.
But in all honesty, even if I do get my way, and even if it is Fallon Henley as the opponent, I still think Kalani's winning, and I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, I think Kalani's definitely pulling it out.
I'm thinking she's going to have some kind of moment with Rob Van Dam at the ECW show.
I'm all for that, too.
She's a big favorite of hers, like the one-of-a-kind split-legged moonsault that she literally named the one-of-a-kind... Or not...
Yes.
The one-of-a-kind moonsault. I can't think. It's tired in here.
It is.
Bully Ray's going to be at the 300 Arena, or 2300 Arena. I hope he brings the Hardy Boys with him, and if we get RVD, maybe Tommy Dreamer in there for some cameos, it'll be a fun night. I don't think it'll be necessarily the best night for wrestling specifically, but I think we're going to have a lot of fun. I think there's going to be a lot of history in there.
Yeah, entertainment-wise, how could you pass that up?
It's going to be a lot of fun. Heyman is rumored to be there as well. I mean, how can you not?
And I wonder if they bring Heyman back before that show, because having him just appear there and not as like a part of the Forward to Bloodline story seems
unless they have him come out in a comedy neck brace, and the reason we haven't seen him is because he's still recovering from the attack from the Bloodline. But even a fucking broken neck wouldn't keep me from the ECW arena. I think if Tony Khan can wear a neck brace to the football whatever the fuckery he did. Then Paul Heyman, of all people, can wear a neck brace to the ECW arena.
Yeah, exactly. No doubt about it. But
let's talk about that some more when we get into it next week. Tony D versus Obafemi. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for
this one. Yeah, this is
Tables, Ladders, and Scares for the Men's North American Championship.
I keep going back and forth with this one. I mean... Everything else feels like a foregone conclusion so far, Andre and Kalani, but this match, I keep going back and forth because do you have Obafemi lose twice? Now the family's not there. I mean, Obafemi even said that directly to
like,
Tony. You know,
well, he put it in there as a stipulation before he spun the wheel and picked his stipulation.
And he's like, so your family won't be by your side. And how much does that play into?
Yeah, the family was banned before he actually took them out, but then he took them out.
Then he handcuffed, Tony and.
Because I'm glad they sort of squared that circle a little bit, because you can't have a TLC match, which is basically what tables, ladders, and scares is. But you can't have a TLC match and then say, oh, if so and so gets involved, it's a disqualification. Like, you're neutering the stipulation. I mean, it's a stipulation show, but you're neutering the stipulation at that point. So he had to physically take them out. You know what would be fun? And I don't know what his contract status is in AEW. I haven't seen him in a while. It would be, okay, we took out Stax, we took out Crucifino, somebody took out the Riz. I'm thinking it was Nikita Lyons, because there's a story happening there.
I'm thinking so, too. It kind of really feels that way.
Apparently them being a couple on TV is racist, because people are strange. I hear
that, and it's like so baffling and ass backwards, I want to say. Like, it just
I think it would be more racist to say they can't be a couple.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what... I don't know.
Anyways, we're not getting into that. I don't want to get canceled.
Exactly. That's a whole
but here's the thing.
Can of worms.
I don't know, as I say, I don't know what his contract status is with AEW. I don't even know if he's still with AEW. But what if Obafemi thinks he's gotten rid of the whole family, and this is the night they bring back Two Dimes?
Ooh, I did not even consider that one bit. So.
I'm pulling this out of nowhere. I'm just thinking.
I'm
just thinking there's
using
that
that
moment.
brain.
I'm just thinking like wrestling storytelling. I've got you all to myself. I've gotten rid of all your backup. Oh, well, you didn't think about this guy. Remember we said...
what about this one? Yeah.
Remember we said about Santana and Moose, and it's like, oh, well, his partners are going to be in that TLC match earlier on in the night. Yeah, but there's still JDC. Exactly. And JDC going to JDC.
And that's pretty much how it's going to happen. And you know it. You know, we do know it.
Which is fine, but it's hysterical to me, the idea that Moose needs backup.
Yeah,
but,
funny enough. But hey,
I don't want to keep going back to this but I've seen the dude in person.
Yeah.
I've seen him put Hardcore Channing Decker through a door that was propped up on my bleacher.
Yeah,
the dude does not need backup.
No.
At all.
He's bigger than two fridges stacked side by side.
And
you know,
we
it's
see him face Obafemi at some point.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna be fantastic. Oh my god, we need what was it? Because I was saying Worlds Collide, but can you imagine friggin'? I know we've already got War Games set for this year, but if they gave War Games back to NXT next year, like TNA versus AEW, or sorry, TNA versus NXT War Games.
TNA and AEW, hey, that's not happening.
I mean, Scott D'Amore talked about how shitty it was working with AEW, and people have all of a sudden turned, oh man, I'm glad he's not in TNA anymore. He didn't do any good in that company. Fuck off.
Exactly.
By the way, also Maple Leaf Pro was awesome. Eat a dick.
I did finally catch a good chunk of that, and Morrow, great to hear him back. Yep. I really enjoyed the production, the layout, all of it.
I don't think anybody else is thinking this as the main focus of the show. I really love Sam Laterna as a ring announcer.
Yeah,
I really do. I think she's great. I'm biased, of course. Destiny, check it off your Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's fine, but she's really good. Mackenzie Mitchell in the back as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Don Callis is good on commentary. He
balances. You knew he'd be great.
Yeah, but he balances that. Yeah, I've definitely got my guys in this particular match or that particular match, but I'm still going to call it. He does what Taz did when Taz still had Team Taz.
Yes.
He balances that out pretty well. The show was great. Did you see Alexander Takeshita?
No, that's the one match I've not gotten to finish. So
did you see Takeshita Bailey?
Yes.
How good?
Fantastic.
How good, right?
On that one. Yeah. I mean, just from start to fucking end, it was like in the highest gear possible.
Yeah. What I think is hysterical is, and I'm talking about like by a matter of inches, I think the Alexander match is better. Alexander himself has said the Bailey match is better.
Ooh, so
there you go. There's a lot of they do false finishes to an art form in the Takeshita Alexander match.
I'm still excited to see that one.
Check it out. We will talk about it at a later date, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was watching things out of order and just kind of picking up, and I was like, oh wow, this has just been like a really fun debut.
Did you see Bully Ray and QT Marshall and what's her name? Haley.
I keep forgetting it. Yeah, I did see that, so that was cool. So
her doing the Dudley stuff in the back, and Bully being like, "What the fuck just happened?"
Yeah, who called this bullshit?
People shit on Bully Ray all the time, like, oh, he's so fucking full of himself. No, he makes himself the butt of the jokes.
Exactly.
In such an awesome, like, not only a lot, but in such an awesome way. Like, what the fuck? He's the guy that's gonna get kicked in the nuts at the end of the sitcom. Yeah. And he embraces it so well and stays such a dick. I really do hope he shows up at the 2300 show. I hope that's more than just a rumor. Anyways.
I did see, what was it? It was like a multi-man match. It had Mike Rollins. He won with Stu and Trevor Lee, Jake something, and somebody else was in there.
Oh, Aiden Prince was in there.
Yeah.
Aiden Prince, and then he tagged with Kushida and Kevin Knight on the second night in a trios match. Aiden Prince is somebody, if you haven't seen a whole lot of him, go see what you can find.
Yeah, and then Athena, like you said, nice to see her again, taking on Giselle Shaw. That was a good match.
And I mean, Athena's clearly the star of the match, respectfully, but Giselle Shaw showed up, showed out. Great match.
So, and I heard Ricochet came out after the Takeshita stuff, so like I said, I didn't see the Alexander one yet, but having him
I will say they did
there
a good
twice
job.
And doing all that was really crazy.
During Maple Leaf Pro, they did a whole lot of promotion for Bound for Glory. They did a whole bunch of promotion for AEW. AEW acknowledging some of the Maple Leaf Pro stuff on Dynamite last night. Cool thing for them to do. I shit on AEW, but I got to give them the credit where it's deserved. They gave them a little bit of shine, a little bit of rub on Dynamite last night. Not that anybody was watching. Sorry, it's right there. Right there.
I can't help it either.
The Devil's Playground. Trick Williams versus All Ego Ethan Page.
Oh, so here's my conundrum with this. I have literally flipped on my decision with this more times than I think is necessary. I really like Trick as champion.
Yep.
I like the story they told where he lost the belt without actually losing it himself.
I was there.
Yep. You got to experience that.
And then I missed the Joe Hendry head turn.
Yeah. Trick, he's on fire right now. And I see him getting called up very soon.
I will say they've missed an opportunity here. And it's got nothing to do with this match, but the three-way match that got us here, where Ego Ethan Page beat Javon and Wesley.
Yeah.
I really thought they were going to manifest that into a Javon Evans-Wesley one-on-one match. And I'm sorry, when they do, it is pay-per-view worthy. Don't stick it on a weekly show. I know it breaks the 5-match rule, but I'm sorry, this is where the what makes it, what doesn't. Toss off Andre and Ridge and put Javon and Wes in their place.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
If we stick with 5 matches a card, I'm going to start getting cutthroat about what makes it and what doesn't.
No, you need to. You absolutely need to be cutthroat because, like you said, it's about what deserves to be on there.
Because you make that switch. Spot. You make that switch, and I think we had a similar conversation about Bad Blood. Switch out the Andre Ridge match, put in the Wesley Javon Evans match. Then this entire card is all killer, no filler.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a cliche. Yes, I used it anyways. It's fine.
But it works, and that's the thing. They could even add one more if down the line, because they really could fit in one more match.
Yeah.
And 6 with the 5,
just
but keep with the 5.
Just take out the millions of ads and replay packages. And I like that they do it, but random superstar highlight reels for no reason that have nothing to do with the show is a little... It's cool because, hey, this person's not being featured tonight, but still keep them in mind. They're still important.
Yeah.
But they've done it too much now.
That's the thing, and it doesn't have
and it makes you turn out, and it makes you treat it like a commercial, and you shouldn't have commercials on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, and you nailed it, and that's the thing, and it just doesn't have the same feel as it did when you were like, oh shit, that was a great moment. Now it's like, again. Yeah. So
I don't know.
With this match here, though, I could see because Ethan Page, it's like, are they done with him? Do they want him to go to the main roster? Is he going to have just a short NXT stint? Had a good heel run with the title, because like he's very seasoned. He doesn't need really to be in NXT.
I'd be willing to bet there's a lot of
greatly.
Yeah, it benefits him, but I'd be willing to bet that it's another Shawn Spears situation in that other people around him are benefiting from having him there. Like Shawn Spears has said point blank that that's one of the reasons when he came back, he went to NXT, because he wanted to have that background mentor type of, like, he wasn't saying, oh, I'm going to be the next trainer of NXT, but just, I'm a guy. You can come, I'm a guy. I've seen some shit. Come talk to me, whatever. Like, William Regal used to say it all the time. CM Punk says it all the time. Like, I'm here. I'm a reference. I'm a resource. Use me. I'm an open book, but you got to read the pages, type of thing. And it's because of stuff like that, and because it's necessarily happening off screen. Guys like Shawn Spears aren't going to get the recognition and the definition that maybe they deserve, which is super unfortunate. Because what he's doing on screen right now is a little lightweight and a little ridiculous. But if his main focus is helping people backstage, then that should also be praised. You know what I mean? And it's not the way it works.
Wrestlers are also like really starting to get behind the fact of like, hey, not everybody can be in the main event.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
And like if you look at everybody's favorite Attitude Era time, there was a lot of people very disenfranchised with how they were being booked and everything they were dealing with. And now you see guys not really having that issue of hey, I'm not the main one on the card. That's okay because I'm making great money. I'm still on TV like that. It's not, and that's kind of the difference here. People have become team players instead of fighting each other with this drive.
I'll give you a prime example of that. Right, big Seth Rollins fan, defender of Seth Rollins more than most people, because a lot of people like to turn on him. Oh, he's not as good as Omega. Okay, that's irrelevant.
Yes.
But huge fan of Seth Rollins. Through all his ridiculousness, through all his Shield stuff, through his NXT run, huge fan of Seth Rollins from NXT all the way up, right?
Yeah.
He was gone since WrestleMania and came back recently to do this stuff with Bronson Reed, right? The entire period of time that he was away, you would have said, yeah, Seth Rollins isn't here. We know that he's home. We know that he's healing from injuries and whatever.
Yeah.
But the show didn't have this big gaping chasm of this, oh, we're missing this big gigantic piece because there's so many people in that main event scene right now.
Exactly.
Now, to take it out of the main event stream and into the mid-card, how different would Monday Night Raw be if R-Truth wasn't there?
Oh, yeah. He really does add quite a bit to it, but it's not going to be truly noticed.
I think it would, because there's a...
You do?
I do. I think there's a certain flavor and a certain kind of, hey, that thing only worked because it was R-Truth doing it.
Okay.
That would be missed on, you miss a type of segment, and you miss a type of segment because the guy that can do that type of segment isn't there. Seth Rollins is a main eventer. Seth Rollins is fucking fantastic, and this is not me shitting on Seth Rollins, but
no.
WWE is cranking out main event superstars.
Exactly, no doubt about it. It's just happening at
somebody
this point.
being a tent pole in the mid card, like R-Truth is. R-Truth finally got a WrestleMania title moment. And as goofy a character as it is, it meant something.
Yes.
To the crowd. He was goofing around with the Judgment Day, and when they turned on him, it meant something.
Yes, and now he's got himself with the Miz turning on him, all this, and I wonder if they're going to try and tell a bit of a story of him having to be a bit more serious. Like, it kind of seemed like that might be what they were leaning at, but not entirely.
But it's one of those things. I always say, I didn't like Kofi Mania. Not because I don't like Kofi Kingston. I don't think that's where Kofi is. Kofi could be the Grandmaster, old, what do you want to call it? My words are really failing me. The Grandmaster, the Elder Statesman of the mid-card. He could be, Ziggler used to be the guy. He could be the guy that you have to feud with, beat, work with, whatever the case may be, if you want to even consider being a main eventer.
Yeah.
He could be the guy holding back the gates from any next person, but no, instead you put him in another place where you wanted me to think realistically that he was going to beat Brock Lesnar, and he looked like a toothpick, and he got treated like a toothpick, and everybody cried, you know what, and Lesnar's going to come back one day because there's money to be made, and people are going to cry, and whatever the case may be. Kofi Kingston, for better and worse,
yes,
Kofi Kingston is not Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar couldn't fill the role that Kofi Kingston fills.
Yeah, no.
Brock Lesnar, to go back to my initial point, Brock Lesnar couldn't fill the role that R-Truth fills.
You're right.
Because he doesn't have that. Some people, and we said it about Dolph Ziggler on the TNA, or sorry, I should say Nick Nemeth, on the show last night. I don't really think he's keeping his title. I think he's going to lose it to Joe Hendry. But it really is an awkward question of what do you do with Nick Nemeth after the title.
Yeah.
Mid-carders matter. And established concrete mid-carders matter. They're the most, like, because guys on the ground, like, picture a building, the ground is on the ground.
Yeah.
The guy in the penthouse is in the penthouse.
The ground is on the ground.
The ground is on the ground. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
But what holds up the penthouse? All the floors in the middle.
Yeah.
The whole idea of not everybody can be a main eventer is an amazing thing. Because if you've got everybody that wants to be a main event, you've got a whole mid-card of people that don't want to be there.
That's very true.
But then you've got some, and so like I say, I tip my hat to R-Truth. He knows exactly where he fits, and he does it, and he makes people feel shit. And if he tried to go up against Gunther, he'd get killed, and people would be sad. But no, instead he went to WrestleMania, goofed around with The Miz, tried to tag himself in a ladder match, and had a cool WrestleMania moment.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. My problem with this match is, I've used that a lot tonight, haven't I? My problem with this match is typically when there's an NXT championship match on a pay-per-view, I'm looking at it from the case of, okay, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to go up, right?
Yeah.
My problem here is I wouldn't mind both of them coming to the main roster.
Okay.
The only thing that makes this more interesting,
the
only thing that makes this more interesting than I kind of hope they both go up is if Ethan Page's old tag team partner, Josh Alexander, shows up at this pay-per-view and helps him get the title back, and we get the reunion of the North, and they do one or two like random tag matches, throw Trick Williams in there with, say, Javon Evans because they've tag teamed before, put not Amazing Red, Sexy Red in their corner again because that was kind of cool. I want to see Josh Alexander on an NXT program. I really do. I've seen him in Destiny. Check it off his Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's fine. I saw him at on the Maple Leaf Pro Show last weekend. I see him doing his thing on TNA. He's killing it. He's going to kick the shit out of Steve Macklin tomorrow night along with the Northern Armory. I want to see what Josh Alexander looks like on a WWE/NXT platform, and I think this is how you get there.
Yeah.
Don't know whether it's happening or not, but that's my pitch. And we're going to squeeze this one in 3 minutes or less. What I predict to be the main event, the NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez, along with the returning Cora Jade, taking on the pretty much debuting Julia and the pretty much debuting Stephanie Vacour.
Really quick, who did you pick, Trick or Ethan?
If there's no interference and if the Josh Alexander thing doesn't happen and if it's just a match standing on its own Devil's Playground, they're going to do some goofy shit anyways. If nobody else gets involved, it's Trick.
Okay. I think Ethan Page is going to win. Not to be contrarian, but I just have a weird feeling. Yeah, but I'm not doing it for contrarian's sake. Like, that's what I'm saying. I genuinely feel like
it would be a boring show if we agreed on everything.
Exactly, but even still, like, I can see them very quickly giving him the title back, and just because they could tell a story. You know what I mean? Like, Trick's first defense, and now he can't keep the title. More than likely, it won't happen. But like you said, where do they go with Ethan Page from here? Where do they go with a lot of people? And that's kind of the question. So we got to see what happens next.
Fair. Yeah, it really throws me for a loop because, you know, your NXT brain goes like, okay, somebody's going to go up eventually. Roxanne Perez is one of those people that could have gone up a long time ago. But with Trick and Ethan, like, Ego is like veteran status at this point, as you mentioned. Trick has enough tools in his toolbox that a run in WWE will work. and whatever he's lacking, they'll put him with people that'll elevate him.
Yeah.
I mean, Carmelo was kind of treading water for a bit until they made this pairing with him and Andrade, and they're about to go to Game 7. And they're mixing it up with LA Knight. So even if he doesn't have everything, they'll figure out what he's missing. They'll do the Paul Heyman thing, accentuate the positives. He's already over with the crowd. People are cheering him at Raw and SmackDown when he's still on NXT. He's not going to have a problem if he goes up. And Ego, like I say, I still picture Ego doing some kind of, like, no pun intended, Ego tag team along with The Miz now that The Miz has gone heel again.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that. So,
but the as I'm saying, the All-Star ladies match to end the night, because WWE never does anything with their women. Fuck off. I mean, we know that Stephanie and Julia are winning, unless something major happens, and I do have an idea of what that major thing could be. I think they're going to do a bait and switch that's not really a bait and switch.
Okay.
We did see Zarya show up on NXT this week. I think what's going to happen is at some point in this match, you're going to come, because there's been this idea for a couple of months now, that, hey, this is this new big trio of new talent that's coming to NXT. You got Stephanie, you got Julia, you got, used to be called Delta. Yeah. And it's like, oh, she's coming down to help, her new friends or whatever. And it turns out that she's actually been recruited by Roxanne and Cora. Drawn by the power of gold, or however you want to say it.
Yeah.
The only reason I say that is because Stephanie and Julia, it started this past week, have sort of a mutual respect with Women's North American Champion Kalani Jordan this past week, because there was some fuckery and whatnot, and they all stood tall.
Yeah.
But take this match. Let this match be as good as it is, have the fuckery at the end, and then somewhere along the way you now have Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, and Zarya taking on Stephanie, Vacour, Julia, and Kalani Jordan, one champion on each team. The new people and the old people split up between the two teams. Yeah. I think that's what they're pushing towards, but just because they're pushing towards that doesn't mean I want to look past how awesome this match is going to be.
Exactly.
Stephanie and Julia showed us what a good team they are this past week on NXT when they took on the Fatal Influence.
Yeah, they were very simpatico. Really they were working well together.
I actually got to see Stephanie's entrance this week because Rogers Cable decided not to be shit this week. Shout out
thankfully.
To Rogers Cable, except not.
Yeah.
Julia, we already saw...
Comcast of the North.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Her entrance is killer. Her finisher is killer. Julia has all the aura for days. The big story that they told this past week on NXT about how they knew each other, they were opponents, they were friends, they've known each other for a long time, and if I was going to call somebody for help, it would be her type of thing. So you're not exactly telling a story, but you're telling the crowd that there is a story.
Yeah.
Which is not the same thing.
No,
but it's better than nothing. And Roxanne and Cora, they were a babyface tag team, and then one of them went heel, and then the other one went heel. So why not be a tag team again?
Yeah.
And I mean, Cora Jade just looks so much better these days. I can't put my finger on it, but I'd really like to. I'm an asshole. It's fine. Plus, they're CM Punk's kids, and that makes people angry too. I mean, unless there's major fuckery, Stephanie and Julia are taking this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see it happening any other way, but you never know.
But then Delta comes out and, like, fucks up Kalani Jordan after her you don't know who your opponent is, you don't know what the stipulation is match. Kalani Jordan is going to get destroyed by somebody at some point, and she's going to be such an amazing, sympathetic babyface. It's going to be fantastic. So I'm kind of looking forward to her getting her ass kicked, which kind of sucks. But it is what it is. We got through that. We got through most of the other stuff that I wanted to talk about, mostly that AEW fans are not coping very well at all. Jake, tell them where to find you.
You can find me on the YouTubes at Jake Countdown and DeMarco. We'll be live, as you said, this Sunday for the one and only Halloween Havoc review. So make sure you come and hang out with us live on Jake's YouTube channel. That's right. Come hang out with us.
Spread the link. Spread the love. #BoundForYou. for HAVOC. And you guys know where to find me, or you wouldn't be here. I've been Spaz. This has been Jake. This has been your second iteration of the Bound for HAVOC preview. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later. For right now, me and Mr. Super Sexy Jake are tagging it. Bye, guys.